Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
For the last time, Vince, I'm telling you I'm not letting you put Keith Lee in a moo-moo. Oh, hi there. H-Man here. You know, the guy who brought you NXT. You're welcome. Surfshark VPN has hired me to endorse their product. All this time, I never knew I could show up on one of Ryan Lame's videos and get paid for it. Anyway, Surfshark's an app you can get in your phone or in your web browser. It protects your online data and it gives you the power to surf from anywhere. Want to watch a show or a movie that's been blocked in your country? Not a problem with Surfshark. Bam, look at that, you have access now. Worried about hackers trying to bury you? Bam, Surfshark stops them. With Surfshark VPN, you are the shovel. Help support Ryan Lame and his YouTube channel by downloading Surfshark with a link in the description. Use the promo code REGRET to get 83% off your order, plus an extra 3 months for free. Thanks for the cash, Surfshark. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to work building the future of WWE. Excuse me. Wait, what? No. Vince? No, Adam Cole is not coming out of a clown car at Mania.
Well, historically, the pay-per-view that sits between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania is kind of a low point, but this is definitely an exception to that rule, widely considered to be one of the best pay-per-views of the Attitude Era in the time period's twilight. I'm talking about No Way Out 2001 from February 25th at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. So to confirm, last year's fully loaded pay-per-view had all the gambling imagery even though they were in Dallas, Texas, and now for No Way Out they're in Las Vegas and nary a gambling reference in sight. This show was nominated by John M., Ricky Tucker, Sean Maloney, Ellis Watson, Alan Jolly, and Justin Trekker over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. 15,223 in attendance, 590,000 pay-per-view buys. That's up more than 100,000 from the previous year. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, for now at least, is on commentary. Your opening match is for the Hardcore Championship as Raven defends against The Big Show. Raven has overcome his initially disappointing debut after moving from ECW the previous year. Now he stands atop the Hardcore division, basically his domain. If he doesn't have the record now, then he soon will have the record for the most reigns with the Hardcore Championship when it's all said and done. The division itself and the 24/7 rule may be dying a death, but at least Raven's making it interesting on the way down. For the last several weeks, he's been getting rescued by a mysterious lady dressed in all black, occasionally referred to as a ninja. We'll find out later it's Tori in a mask and you never see her again. The Big Show, meanwhile, made his return in the Royal Rumble match after several months away at OVW. Jim Ross during the intro saying The Big Show debuted at No Way Out in 1999. Well, you're half right, Jim, because that was a pay-per-view that took place in February. As Big Show comes out, the Ninja Lady tries to stop him. He and Raven have a fight on the stage and Show whomps Raven with a stop sign. Raven staying alive using some quick dodges, even spraying Show with a fire extinguisher. Suddenly, a jacked concession worker jumps in the ring and attacks, goes to steal the belt, but Big Show stops him. It's only that wacky Crash Holly. In comes Steve Blackman and Hardcore Holly, and everyone's working over Show. Now Billy Gunn, one of the more recent Intercontinental champions only a couple of months ago, runs in and hits the famouser on Raven to become the new Hardcore champion. Okay, the match continues. Raven steals a win back from Gunn, regains the championship. Crash with a face plant into the popcorn. The Ninja comes back, but Molly Holly puts a stop to her right away. Raven attacks with a trash can, but Show chokeslams him onto another one. The Big Show pins and wins to become the new champ, but we're not done yet because Billy Gunn still wants some, but awkwardly gets thrown over the top rope, and it appears that Big Show has now officially, finally won the match. I give it 1 star out of 5. You know, it's a wild clusterfuck with a couple of funny moments and a couple of confusing moments thrown in as well. Honestly, I'm just kind of desensitized to it. I mean, it doesn't help that we've been watching the same joke play out today in modern times for the last 2 years with the 24/7 championship. So to see it happen again here with the Hardcore title, it's you know what? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Kevin Kelly back in the garage with Kurt Angle. He says he feels super confident about his match tonight, says that Vegas has the highest percentage of losers than anywhere in the country, and The Rock will soon be added to that list. Elsewhere backstage, Lillian Garcia with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. How can they coexist in the Intercontinental title match later on? Eddie warns Jericho and X-Pac to stay out of his way. Benoit says they'll be able to coexist, but by the end, one of them will walk away the Intercontinental champion. And we go to that match now. It's a fatal four-way for the belt as Chris Jericho defends the ghost of his past. Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and X-Pac. Jericho beat Benoit at the Royal Rumble in that classic ladder match to win the belt. Meanwhile, other people like Eddie Guerrero and X-Pac have come back from injuries that were sustained by Chris Jericho in kayfabe, and now they all want revenge. And here's the new twist, the new wrinkle with X-Pac's return. He's got a friend. The former ECW champion Justin Credible's debut for the company now is his running buddy. It's the humble beginnings of X Factor. Guerrero and Benoit working together to attack Jericho while X-Pac's laid out early on. He gets back in though and lays out Jericho, so it's him versus the Radicals now. Eddie is miffed that Benoit is the crossface on X-Pac, but Jericho's the one who breaks it up. Eddie with a big frog splash to X-Pac, but the pin's broken up again. Eddie then breaks up a pin by Benoit. We see some remnants of the last match on the floor at ringside. X-Pac wants to hit the Bronco Buster on Benoit, but he eats a missile dropkick instead. Benoit taking exception to Eddie breaking the pin out of the German suplex, and the two teammates fight. Benoit with a superplex to Eddie. The two Chris's exchange offense. Big old chops by Benoit. Jericho is hit with one German, but he stops another one with the walls, leaning a bit toward lion tamer status there. Jericho then gets it on Eddie and X-Pac when suddenly Just Incredible shows up. He and X-Pac take out Benoit with a double super kick. Lion salt by Jericho is broken up by X-Pac. X-Pac with some dick kick city and an X Factor, but that's broken up too. Benoit with a cross face, but Eddie with a cool neck breaker to stop it. Benoit with a flying headbutt to Eddie Guerrero. X-Pac knocks Benoit's block off, then Jericho rolls him up to win and retain the title. This is a great change of pace in the other direction from the previous match we saw. Just four of the big workhorses in the company working like horses. I will say X-Pac in the build to this, X-Pac being in this match makes the least amount of sense out of everyone. I think he has the least connection to Jericho compared to Benoit and Guerrero, but his involvement in the match itself is very well done. Backstage, Mr. McMahon with William Regal. Vince telling Regal that since the Trish-Stephanie match was Willie's idea, he knows that Regal will know exactly what to do when the time is right and do the right thing. Regal nods and agrees, but when he's by himself, he admits he has no idea what to do. And now it's time for Trish Stratus versus Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. You know, it's a tale as old as time. Daughter conspires with father to force mother out of power by breaking her spirit and getting her sedated, but she never counts on the mistress who threatens to usurp her. Classic blunder. But now we have a battle to see who the real dominant female in the World Wrestling Federation is. And I have to tell you guys, all seriousness, this is genuinely one of the more exciting and better storylines of this time. For weeks now, we've been seeing Vince and Trish canoodling on camera, basically having sex during the shows, which seems highly unprofessional. Steph's in a weird place right now where she's definitely a heel still associated with Triple H and all that, but she's kind of in a somewhat sympathetic light because Trish is stepping in and trying to take her spot. Not enough to be a full-blown babyface, but enough that she is cheered more than Trish, I would say. Vince has tried to play innocent the whole time with Trish, saying they're just good friends, even going so far as to have William Regal step in and pretend to be dating Trish to try and throw Steph off the scent. Does not work though. The two ladies brawl for weeks, and on the go-home SmackDown, Trish humiliates Stephanie by beating her up, rubbing her face in horse shit, and pouring some mysterious brown goop onto her. For as long as I've been watching wrestling, it's super rare to find moments like this where Stephanie's in a real position of like vulnerability and being compromised like this. It's like probably one of the top 5 moments ever of that kind of scenario, so it's definitely a wild storyline to be sure. Before the match, you go to a rainy Times Square, home of WWF New York. Busta Rhymes is there, and so is Test, Stephanie's former fiancé, Trish's former client with TNA. How does he feel about the next match? He says he hopes these two beat the hell out of each other, so we find out who the biggest trash bag hoe in the WWF is. Way to badly cop Jericho's gimmick, Test. The match begins, and Stephanie tackles Trish. Steph with some Jake the Snake-like short arm clotheslines. Steph definitely fights like someone who is not trained to wrestle. Trish fights back and dumps Steph over the barricade, but she comes back with a jumping clothesline. Trish comes back and rams Steph's head into the ring post, pummels her in the corner. We get a bulldog and a kick out. Bit of an awkward exchange before Trish hits the DDT, but Steph kicks out again. Fighting on the outside, Stephanie grabs a pitcher of water from the announce desk and soaks Trish with it. Steph catches a Hurricane Rana into a powerbomb, then spanks Trish for good measure, and Jerry Lawler is practically climaxing over this. Double down after a double hair mare when Willie Reegs shows up. He trips the referee and tries to help Trish at first, but he has has a change of heart. Stomps the ref again, which is great, takes a Trish slap for his troubles, goes to kiss the hand, but psych, Regal cutter. Steph crawls to Trish to pin, and she wins. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. It is not a pretty match by any stretch. I mean, these two ladies are probably as close to untrained as you can get. Trish probably a little more on the experience level than Stephanie, but not by much. No one there is a ring general, but they make it work. There are some awkward moments, but they don't totally shit the bed, and I guess the whole story being told, not just in the build, but also in the match itself, is also very well done. These ladies definitely earned their billing tonight. But then backstage, Vince gets in Regal's face and is incensed that William could not read his mind. Vince wants a match tomorrow night with he and Trish versus Regal and Stephanie, and this would spell the beginning of the end for the Vince and Trish relationship, because in that mixed tag team match, Vince, Stephanie, and Regal would all swerve Trish, beat her up, dump her with some slop, and then of course the following week we'd get that infamous Trish barks like a dog segment, but then Trish would help Linda get revenge at WrestleMania, so it's all good. Well, I can't believe we're having the match this early in the show, but it's time for 3 stages of hell. Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, the blow-off to an angle 2 years in the making. Of course, Survivor Series 99, Austin was hit with a car, written off to get neck surgery. When he comes back the next year, we find out Rikishi was the man behind the wheel, but it was Triple H's doing all along. Austin almost murders Triple H at Survivor Series 2000. They cost each other title shots. Then Austin ends up winning the 2001 Royal Rumble match. It finally comes down to this match at No Way Out, where the rule is Triple H and Austin can't fight until the pay-per-view, or else the match is off and both men will suffer severe consequences. Triple H will be suspended for 6 months, and Austin will lose his WrestleMania main event match. So we have the contract signing here, and by the way, fun little trivia, Triple H's lawyer in this segment is named Brian Gewirtz, but is not played by writer Brian Gewirtz. H pulls a fast one on Austin by only signing the first letter of his name on the contract, jumps Stone Cold, then signs his full name, which legally that feels like some murky waters. Now, I'm no lawyer, but if Triple H signed even a part of his name on the dotted line, surely legally you could argue that he has signed his name on the contract, making it legally binding, right? But what do I know? Triple H picks the stipulations, and it's 2 out of 3 falls. In the first fall, he wants to break Austin's spirit with a straight-up wrestling match. Then in the second fall, he wants to break his bones with a street fight. And if it comes to the third fall, it'd be in a salad steel cage. Austin playing lots of mind games with Triple H in the weeks leading up to this as well, drinking beer in his locker room and getting in his face and just kind of taunting him, even going so far as to hit Stephanie with the stunner. But Triple H gets Austin back the next week by hitting Jim Ross with a pedigree. Because you see, Jim Ross is Austin's best friend, so tit for tat. Triple H's wife, Austin's best friend. You know, I will say, Austin is currently married to Deborah, who is on the payroll at this point, but when you consider how fast she was booked and unbooked from the WrestleMania 17 main event, she was supposed to be The Rock's manager, that never materialized, makes me think there were some external forces at play here, maybe some political machinations to prevent Deborah from being the one taking the finisher. That being said, I love the build of this match with no contact, zero tolerance. The way they kept that going for so long was really compelling, and I'm kind of surprised we don't see that kind of storytelling today. Austin storms the ring and the match opens with a brawl. Austin working the arm, which is already causing problems for Triple H as he wants to hit the pedigree. Austin goes to the axe handle, but H gets the boot up. Triple H works the leg, gets Austin in the figure 4, but Austin reverses it. Trips with some elbows to the knee, then Austin fights back with multiple brace shots to the face. Goes for a stunner, but H counters the neck breaker. Goes for a flying nothing off the second rope, but jumps right into a stunner, and Austin wins the first fall. What a twist. Fall number 2 begins, and Austin's all over Triple H. A suplex on the ramp, TV monitor the dome, they brawl in the crowd. Austin beats the hell out of H's legs of the chair. He procures a barbed wire 2x4 and rears back, but H takes Austin to Dick Kick City. Triple H attacks with a 2x4, and now Austin's bleeding a whole lot. H wants a pedigree on the announce table, but his bum arm slows him down, gets backdropped to the Spanish announce table, and woo, he had to work hard to clear that table. Austin is intense and gross looking and tells him to get the fuck out of his way. Triple H decks Austin with a ring bell and a neck breaker on the chair, but somehow not enough to put him away. Triple H with a big old bump over the top rope out of a pedigree attempt. Austin dinks Triple H with the chair and some steps, and now Helmsley's bloodied. H comes back and brings out the sledgy. Austin goes for the stunner, but H blocks it, clocks him with the hammer, then a pedigree to put him away for the second fall. Time for the steel cage. The first part of the portion is all Triple H pummeling Austin and driving the barbed wire into his head until Austin hits him with the chair. Now it's his turn for some barbed wire action, fighting on the side of the cage stage. Austin gets crotched on the top rope, but he beals Triple H off the top as well. Triple H with the pedigree, but Austin kicks out. H with the chair shot goes for another pedigree, but Austin fights out of it, hits the stunner, and another kick out. Austin with a 2x4, Triple H with the sledgy. They hit each other at once. Triple H falls on Austin, though, wins the final fall, and then some asshole throws a can of beer into the ring, and it decks Austin right on the head. Ouch. I give it 4.5 stars. The damn near perfect matchup here. Just a fierce, brutal battle these guys had. I think is just a great payoff to the weeks of no contact and no physicality. And just, yeah, I think it was a terrific story being told in the ring. You know, Austin would get his WrestleMania moment next month when he beats Rock for the championship. Spoiler alert. But Triple H gets a big validating win against Austin in preparation for his match with The Undertaker. But then Austin gets his heat back, hits Triple H with a stunner afterward, because that's just how things are done here. So now it's cool down time. Jerry Lawler leaves to get ready for his match as Steven Richards holds a prayer circle. Taz comes in as Lawler's replacement for the rest of the show. Looking into the future a bit here, Taz had done some commentary before this, but I think it's probably his biggest test at the time, finishing off like a whole pay-per-view. I think he did a pretty good job here. And after a commercial for a contest featuring McFoley, which kind of breaks the illusion he's been fired, it's time for Jerry Lawler versus Steven Richards of Right to Censor. The Cat, who of course made waves at Armageddon 99 by flashing her breasts on pay-per-view, wants to lead the right to nudity. She's just dying to get naked on television, folks, and then the bad old RTC won't let her do it. She even hires the APA to help her out, but they're pretty inefficient. At one point, Steven Richards screams at the Cat's face, calling her a slut, and she responds by planting a kiss on him. Richards is definitely getting more unhinged in this chapter of RTC's existence. Finally, Jerry Lawler, champion of women, stands up for Cat's right to get naked. Cat, by the way, is Lawler's wife in real life. If Lawler wins, Cat gets to strip naked on pay-per-view, but if Richards wins, Cat must join Right to Censor. On the SmackDown before the pay-per-view, Lawler gets his ass kicked by all of RTC, which I don't think I've ever seen them get beat up that much in one sitting before. The match begins. Jerry opens up with some right hands, but Steven responds by just screaming at him.
She's out of her mind. I want to see the king. Look,
Steven fights back, but Lawler responds with some moves. Richards powders again. You know it's serious now because the shirts come off, folks. Ivory gets in Lawler's face on the outside, but the Cat gets a shot of her own. Richards on the offensive now, goes for the former hoe train, but he misses. Lawler with not 10, not 20, but 26 straight punches in the corner and a bulldog. Steven kicks out. Ivory helps out Stevie while the crowd chants, "We want puppies." We get an awkward moment here where Richards is waiting to get cut off by Lawler, but he doesn't, so he just keeps walking over him until Jerry finally gets the hit and cuts him off with a low blow. Jerry's got the match won until Ivory gets on the apron. Cat gets in the ring now. That allows Jerry to punch Stevie, slam Ivory, then something feels like it's gone awry here. Someone may be missing their cue perhaps. Cat's got the women's championship, goes to hit Steven, but he moves and Cat takes out Lawler on accident. It's Pillman, Goldust, Marlena all over again. Steven wins. The Cat's hauled off in a burlap sack as the newest member of Right to Censor. I give it 1 star out of 5. There are a couple of good bits here. I mean, Jerry Lawler still knows how to work really well and can still make the crowd light up by looking at them, so the magic is still there with him. But it's a bit too clunky and a bit too overbooked at the end and really makes it drag. The one thing worse than this match, though, is the follow-up to the storyline, which is pretty much non-existent. The next night on Raw, a tearful Cat's done up in RTC gear. Whatever will she do? That's the last we ever see of her, though, because by the end of the week, she and Lawler are gone from the company. On SmackDown, they try and wrap this up by having Val Venus being punished for some transgression he committed, some moment of weakness, giving in to lust, and he's beaten up for it, and he's punished and has to pay for his sins and whatnot. The Cat is never mentioned by name, but it's alluded to that Val Venus and the Cat had relations, so Val gets a slap on the wrist and Cat's essentially expelled. What commentary? In reality, the Cat is fired by the WWF and husband Jerry quits in protest to support his wife. And so for 9 glorious months, Paul Heyman replaces him on commentary. But soon after they leave the company, the Cat and the King split up and they eventually get divorced officially in 2003. So yeah, Lawler quits his job for his wife, then she leaves him. Lawler bounces around in the World Wrestling All-Stars and the XWF for a bit before coming back to the Federation after Survivor Series, so that's a bit awkward, and we never get to find out just how the Cat would eventually destroy RTC from within. The Undertaker and Kane interviewed backstage. Big dogs, The Yard, Pain and Suffering, Dead Man Inc. They're going to put him through hell. Up next, the tag team tables match for the tag titles as the Dudley Boyz defend against Edge and Christian and Undertaker and Kane, 3 pairs of fake brothers. The Dudleys overcame their active concussions and won the tag belts back from Edge and Christian at the Rumble. ENC want the belts back, but they've also pissed off Undertaker and Kane, who reunited after the Rumble. Tour de force moment for Edge and Christian in the build as they trick Taker and Kane into thinking the Dudley Boyz trashed Mean Mark's bike, trapping them both, taking everyone else out. They made him suck that painsicle, which is an actual line Edge said in a promo in the build for this show, and it's an amazing line. Suck on that painsicle. Taker rocking a very rare look here. Shit minimalist ministry. Edge and Christian are surrounded by the babyface teams, and Taz says, Edge and Christian are cool, but that's one cool sandwich. Okay. Dudleys are hucked off the stage, and Taker and Kane beat up on Edge and Christian for a bit. The Dudleys return, hit some double headshots to the chair. Bubba Ray ducks a standing concerto attempt, has a nice comeback into the was up. Devon goes to get the tables, but Taker and Kane show back up. Unprettier to Bubba by Christian. We get stereo power slams, then somewhat stereo top rope clotheslines by the BOD. All 3 teams in the ring now. Kane and Taker launched outside. Dudley's won a 3D, but Taker stops it. Goes to chokeslam Christian, but it gets stopped. Stereo chokeslams to ENC, then to the Dudleys. We almost get some power bombs, then Rikishi and Haku show up to spoil the fun. These guys have been feuding with Taker and Kane for a while, lost a First Blood tag match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago. The brawl spills to the outside between them. Back in the ring, Edge goes for a spear, but he gets nothing but table. 3D to Christian through a table. The Dudleys win and retain. Undertaker, what do you make of that? Fuck! I give it 2 stars out of 5. It's a pretty one-dimensional match all told, where the story is Taker and Kane are just beating the hell out of the other 2 teams, and then Haku and Rikishi, who aren't even part of the match, swoop in and cost them the match. If you're going to do that, why not just make it a 4-team match, or have 2 separate matches with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, and Taker and Kane and Rikishi and Haku? In your main event, Kurt Angle defends the WWF Championship against The Rock. Angle is about 5 months into his first reign with the belt, where he's been retaining by hook and by crook the entire time. Meanwhile, The Rock won a #1 contendership match soon after the Rumble pay-per-view to earn this spot here. I love the build for this match is that everyone and their mother knows The Rock's going to win and go on to WrestleMania to fight Austin, but Kurt Angle still has a fighting chance. It's not very convincing in the build for this, but I will say the build gave us a couple of cool historic moments. First of all, we saw the national debut of the infamous Kurt Angle Pizza Outlet commercial with the CGI toppings, and then I'm pretty sure this is the beginning of the "You Suck" chants during Angle's theme. Now, it wasn't happening during entrances just yet, but there is a segment in the build here where Angle compares his track in the music volume 5 to that of The Rock's, where he raps about pie with Slick Rick. And so he plays The Rock's track once, plays his own theme again, and he's like, let's do that one more time. And on the second time they're playing it, you hear some fans chant "You Suck" to it, which I don't think I'd ever heard before, because I was watching the stuff from this time period, and before late 2000, no one was doing it yet, as far as I could tell. It would take a while for it to transition into entrances, but I think it's the first documented case of that chant happening. Before the match, The Rock simply repeats a mantra he's been saying all week: tick-tock, tick-tock. The countdown and your reign as champion is over. Short and sweet promo by The Rock here, but honestly, what more can he say? I mean, even the announcers here are saying, everyone thinks The Rock's gonna win, but da-da-da. Come on, who you fooling? Some back and forth early on. Angle gets the ankle lock in early, but The Rock grabs the ropes. Kurt begins to throw The Rock around with some suplexes, but The Rock with one of his own. Rock with a flying forearm and the whack sharpshooter, but a rope break. Fighting up in the corner in a superplex, Kurt kicks out of the pin. The Rock is dumped out of the ring, and Rock appears to injure his leg, but is able to sucker an Angle with a DDT. Suddenly, the Big Show appears. What's he doing here? He chokeslams the ref, then Kurt Angle, then The Rock, then he leaves, and his music plays, and all that for nothing, because you're not seeing the Big Show wrestle Angle or The Rock at WrestleMania. The match continues. Kurt covers The Rock. Finally, Earl Hebner sees it and dumps Kyoto to make the count. Rock barely kicks out, though. Rock nails Kurt with the title belt, and somehow Kurt kicks out in the nick of time. Kurt catches Rock with the ankle lock. Kurt now screaming at The Rock to tap out or he'll break the ankle, but The Rock grabs the ropes. The two men trade strikes. Rock with the spine on the pine. The Rock with the people's elbow and another insanely close kick out. The crowd chants bullshit, but it's going to get worse, folks. Kurt with a low blow and the ref's not looking. He undoes the turnbuckle pad. He rams Rock into the bolt. An Angle slam, but The Rock kicks out. Starts to make a comeback, but Angle kicks his leg out from under his leg. Goes for a charge, but he runs headfirst into the exposed turnbuckle. Walks into a rock bottom. The Rock wins? Nope, Hebner fucks it up. Somehow Earl stops the count for no reason. Kurt clearly does not move. They just do it over again. Another rock bottom, and The Rock wins. Well, that was an ending. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I wanted to give it 4. I really like the back and forth in this thing, and even though you could see the end result from space and you knew exactly where it was going to go, at least the journey to get us there was interesting and the action was good. I think the Big Show run-in didn't do much for me, didn't make any sense, and then Hebner fucking up the count at the end kind of like took the wind out of the sails. But besides that, really strong matchup here. My final grade for No Way Out 2001 is a B+. I think it's definitely one of the stronger shows of 2001 and the Attitude Era in general. One thing I forgot to mention here, this is the end of the Austin Triple H feud, period. Except for a couple of house shows during this time, you never see them wrestle each other again as opponents because they will team up after WrestleMania for the two-man power trip, then Triple H gets hurt, and then one thing leads to another, and then they never have that final clash after the power trip breaks up and everything. So drink that in, I guess. Yeah, for a show that takes place before WrestleMania, that lull between the Rumble and WrestleMania, there's a lot going on here. A lot of big angles developing, beginning, wrapping up. Not perfect across the board in terms of in-ring stuff, but just a lot of big moments, and yeah, very enjoyable show overall. If you want to play a role in determining which shows I look at, be they good, bad, or somewhere in between, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret, become a $10 backer or above, and you'll have the chance to nominate classic shows for me to review. Well, it is WrestleMania season after all, so the next few classic reviews are going to be some classic manias. And I'm going to kick off this whole season with a doozy, something that I consider to be the worst WrestleMania of all time for a time, WrestleMania 11. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.